Welcome back to Indian Trace. I have something I want to share with you guys. And everybody that tunes into Indian Trace, you start to understand my style and how I share stuff. But today, I was completely blown away. And is it worth picking up pottery? Always. Now, as I mentioned before on a video, and you're looking at what I found today right here. Now, I found this pottery, and we'll mention a couple things about it in a second, in the same place that I found all of these points right here. Now I've got a round table set up. Just check this out. Biggest to smallest. We might go the opposite direction. Unbelievable. Now today I went along at the outside of the archaic where they have newly done a clear cut, bulldozed, and you name it. Serious pressure, machines, and violence. But I went through and I started to find pottery for the first time through some of the sandy zones. I mean, look at this stuff. I never find 3 pieces of big pottery like this at one time out. For me, the value of it is relative because at least where I am and how I find stuff, it's rare. It's rare. Tempered with sand, much of it, as you could see. But I mean, I just don't find big pottery like that. I was finding big piece, then I'd find another, and I'd be like, my goodness. And then I was picking up pieces like this. I don't even pick up the real small stuff. Look at the difference, if you will, in tone and in the textile that they used to imprint this or to pack the clay in and then fire it. Look at this piece, for example. It's great stuff. An Indian Trace, representing the history of the North American Indian here. You're looking at late archaic pottery, early woodland pottery, which is crazy. I hope that comes in. You can see the sand in that pottery that they use to temper it. And there are a lot of guys out there that find a lot of pottery that might have studied it more. I'm sure they have, and would be able to tell you a whole lot more about it. But one really cool point that I learned the other day, I think it was from Brooksy, was that it's got this pattern and this texture on it. You can see all the difference in it. And look at this. And the difference. You're seeing a lot of different dispensations here. And what I mean by that is, I mean, you could have represented here 10 sets of 100 years. You could have 1,000 years separation in this, or 500 years separation in this. So a lot of different people groups. A lot of different ages of people making this pottery. Very possible. Very possible. Good stuff. But what they did is they take this clay and look at the textures here. And we're going to check out these points. Look at the texture on this. And they pack it into a basket weave. And then they stick that in the fire so it can get cured in the fire. And this one is really early, probably late archaic, because it really has not much of any texture packed into something. Good stuff. So valuable altogether. And to give you a look at these big pieces, just to look at the backside so you can see how this pottery is made if you love pottery. The light in here seems to be about perfect. And after this pottery, I'm going to show you a new book I started. Hope everybody's well out there. Wasn't able to film anything out there today, and I want to show you this here. Look at this pottery. I mean, I'm telling you what, I was blown away with pottery today. I thought for sure with the pottery that was coming up that if I moved along, I'm going to start pulling out some stone artifacts and points and what have you. And I did find these 2 artifacts, which is fine. But in terms of the sheer volume of artifacts that are there, they're there. It's a new site. A fella, well, here's the book. A fella dropped off a bulldozer today. This is a good book. I already read the intro. I read the preface. And it's going to be a great book. I could tell the authors, and I know how they related to one another when they wrote it. This one here, when he wrote it, he was working at the Smithsonian Institute, and he understood the Indian Wars in terms of, you know, the break of the 17th century and backwards to when they began really early in the 1600s. And then this guy up here understands the Indian Wars from about 1800 forward really well. So they combine their understanding of the Indian Wars to write the book together, as well as a lot of really great illustrations in there. And I just started it, but I always highly recommend it. I'll highly recommend anybody studying about the North American Indian and deepening their interest in the individuals that carry the bloodline for this stuff. Okay, let's go around this table. What is going to be cool about this is that these points that you're looking at, every single one of them, came from where I pulled this pottery today. I mean, that's some good stuff. Up here, in the shot right there, that's all stuff that I get to give away. Now, the points that you're going to see are all just pulled quickly from my top shelf stuff, my favorite stuff. These three big pieces are going to go into a special dish that I have in my office. Just good stuff, right? But the points here, I could easily pull, and we're going to go counterclockwise, from my top shelf, from the exact same site. So there's a lot I'm looking forward to. The better you know a place, the better you hunt it. When you know who is there, you know what is there. Some of these points, some of you guys who are veterans on this channel and who are veteran hunters and have been here before, you've seen them. The light was just so good and it was just so easy to pull the stone points that came from the same place that I found this today. I know it's redundant, but I'm a teacher. And so it's impossible for me not to be redundant. I guess even better for my grandchildren to come, my children if they ever want to follow up, and after I've passed away, after my life has become more important. It's a sad truth, isn't it? You gotta wait till you die until your life becomes really important to your loved ones. I don't even understand how that works. I strive to make people's lives really important to me right now, but because of human nature, that's hard to do. I let them know. I look at them straight and tell them all the time, but they look at you like you're so strange. Just check out these points from the archaic. It's pretty cool to see them all together. I never really just pulled them quick from my top shelf as they continue to accumulate. And I was going through today finding this, and I said to myself, well, my goodness, if the spot, which archaic is broken into two sections now, that is putting out all of this today, there's no doubt that this stuff that we're looking at, these points, are there. There's no doubt. They're there. I don't have any doubt in my mind. So I look forward to going back. I look forward to the rain. And, I'm really conflicted today. The place was clear cut. I know it's just a natural progression of how they're going to work the site, but they dropped the bulldozer off today. So they're going to grade it. And that hurts me. Now, all the lands that I hunt right now and all the fields that I work, they were graded at one time or another. These 30,000 pound bulldozers, it just hurts my heart. So, but you can't do anything about it. We sort of work together on it all. Give you a good look at these. That's one of my favorite points I found earliest at the archaic. Look at these, and I don't want to rush over anything. I mean, you're talking about dispensations. There's a lot of these points here that you're looking at. What's the best way to say it, to share it with you? They're thousands of years older than this pottery that comes from the same site. And I don't have it up here, but I have found the most incredibly awesome little triangles at this site. I mean, smoking. I even put one on film, I think about 4 or 5 films back. Just an incredible small little point. It actually was an archaic triangle. I think they did make some small triangles for the archaic period and not all for the historic period Indian. Just a theory that I have. I know the triangle, the Madisons and the Hamiltons or whatever, they are definitely part of the historic period Indian, the very early, before they completely abandoned stone point technology because of firearms and things like that. Great point there, isn't it? As we keep going, I mean, they're going to get bigger because I have smallest to biggest. Look at this piece of rhyolite from the archaic. I don't know if its contrast is coming out good with that gray behind it, but there it is. Now, like I said, I was able to, in 5 minutes, just go through the top shelf in my box and know when I looked at it that the point came from the archaic. That's why when I'm there, I say I have found more stellar artifacts there than I can imagine, and it's fearful. When I move forward, I know that these artifacts are preserved in the dirt and they're in the ground there. Here's probably one of the most recent ones that I found. I think this last time I went out there when my son was fishing. Of course, it's at Guilford, Yuma. So there you go. There's a good illustration. You're looking at it right there in terms of dispensation. They pretty much pegged the Guilford, Yuma at about 9,000 BC. And that's interesting because this pottery, and that's a super nice piece from the archaic. Very interesting because this pottery, sure as you live, is not close. Not 5,000 years, not 6,000 years, close to 9,000 BC. And now when we start talking about dispensations, it's difficult for people who are modern people with modern ideas about religion. And now some people will say, well, they're not modern at all. It's ancient ideas about my religion. Well, Christianity is not an ancient religion in terms of this world's age, in terms of prehistoric life. Christianity is a modern religion if in any stretch of the imagination you want to consider dinosaurs here on this earth. They did not coexist. And I know we can have a conversation about it. They did not exist and coexist with human beings, that is, dinosaurs or megalodons or none of it. So there's a whole lot that I can't wait to learn because I know one thing, sure as you live, God is real. There's a heaven to gain and there's a hell to shun. Sure as you live, there's good people. Look at these points as I go around. And sure as you live, there's evil. And thank God, in terms of political interest, that we made sure a great evil didn't take the leadership of this country. I won't mention any names. So there is definitely, and I know that everybody who's got a head on their shoulders can say, yeah, there is definitely good that exists in this world. That is clear. Clearly influenced in its virtue and its charity as something that comes from God alone. True goodness. Look at this piece. All from the archaic, everybody. Every single piece here from the site I ventured out to today just to check it out. And you see, it's well worth going out there. As you can see as I go around this table. So what I like to do always, every day, is look at this. I love this point. At Lattle Dart Tip. Rhyolite. Is remind myself, and I ask myself the question, is there evil that's coming against the leadership in this country right now? Yes, definitely. No doubt. Is there evil that's been coming against the nation of Israel? Yes, definitely, no doubt. Is there good within me to pray against it? Here's one I want to share with you before we're done as we're looking at this. This is so funny. And it was funny based on the scripture and based on God's providence. You know what I think is foolish? I think it's foolish that anybody is actually a Satanist, which includes witches, which includes warlords or whatever, would pray and think that they have power over the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's an impossibility. That's foolishness. Jesus proved that time and time again here with the testimony of his life. I mean, my goodness, I couldn't even begin to start telling you how many times he proved that God was completely in control. And God, by providence, did put our president, whether you like him or not, in office. I saw the people of Israel praying, and Americans usually are not that devoted, that look at that point, that Rowan from there. One of the first points I found at the archaic. Americans usually do not pray that fervently. They usually do not truly believe in faith that God is going to make a difference. Now, I did. I was up till 3:30 on election night. My hands were in the air and I was thanking God for his providence because this nation needs us to stand up and to believe, needs us to stand up and help. But I won't go on with that as we look at all these. Like I said, there's a heaven to gain and a hell to shun. And I promise you, if you advocate violence and unrest from a civil society, you're on the wrong side. And as God told Paul on Damascus Road, you're fighting a losing battle here. You're kicking against the prick, kicking against the pricks. And God pretty much easily showed him who was in control, took his sight away until he would humble himself and become as a servant. God doesn't have any problem doing that with anybody, me or anyone. Not a problem at all. Look at this Guilford. One of the earliest pieces I found there. So anyway, just sharing some thoughts. Some people will say they're religious thoughts, but they're really not. It's a lifestyle I live. With humility and devotion before God, who I know exists, who I know designed this earth. Just as much as we know when we see one of these points on the ground that it was designed by a human being, I can look at the earth and know it was designed by a creative being. That we were probably designed, well, I know for sure we were, in his image and in his likeness. That was not half as hard as it sounded, everybody. Not half as hard as it sounded on that glass. The glass is really loud. It's like a drum. Listen to that. I mean, it's barely moving. See how loud that is? So I really didn't hit it that hard. Don't worry, I'm not going to break. I haven't broke an artifact yet. Not yet. So as I finish up here, look at this pottery and stuff. Mercy. It was a great day for pottery. I mean, oh my gosh, look at this. Can you even believe that? And it was just really unique and well-textured pottery, which I always love. Pottery carries an earthy weight to it. I mean, just look at this. What I get out of pottery, we have one more point to look at. And when I look at it, and you pick it up and you collect it, Jonesy might verify this real well, is it carries an earthy weight in your soul. And so when you're feeling it and you're collecting it, there's a definite different spirit about it than there is in points. Sure, these are magnificent, they're great, and they strike you with the purpose that they were designed for. But when you see these on the ground and you pick up points like these, one thing is for sure, you know that these were throwaway. These were not really highly important to the North American Indian in terms of the way they felt about it. Now the pottery, they felt completely different about. They didn't want it to break. They wanted the vessel and they used it, and it was a technology that they really appreciated. I'm sure of it. I mean, come on. We've got so many bowls, so many plates, so many containers, and we just use them, but they're important to us. Things that are expendable to us, we just sort of make them because we know we're going to use them up and discard them. Well, a lot of these points here, as we look at all these, they made because they knew they were going to use them up and discard them. They were useful. They were valuable to them. I mean, look at this. G10. Definitely. But just some contrast and thoughts. And as we finish, appreciate you tuning in to Indian Trace. Please, if you have any comments, it doesn't matter to me, about anything that I've shared or anything that you think in terms of God's plan for man, in terms of the political climate of today or the political climate of this nation, in the story of the North American Indian, of whose ancestors we collect the artifacts, then please share. It's fine with me. I don't know if my focus is working now, my word. Let's see if I can do this. There we go. All from the archaic. My hands are so red right here after running out today. But just give you a real close up, a little bit of a Guilford round. Guilford nonetheless. Fantastic stuff. So I don't know what you guys are doing today. Some of you guys I've heard and you've made some great comments are waiting out winter. You want it to end. So, from the pottery that I found today, which inspired this whole circle, pulled from the top of my box, all these points, all of them, from the archaic. I mean, look at these. And the reason I'm taking a little extra time is because I've had a couple shout outs that said, please take your time. Let us see the artifacts. And I would hurry. My brain would be flying, you know. Now I take a little bit extra time just to show things in connection. So this is one site. One site that I've been able to discover by chance. It just happened. Nobody ever told me about it. But I went out and did some work. And on this whole line, most smoking artifacts, the very first one I found on the site ever was this one. It was sure a great first projectile point to find there. So with that said, I'm going to put that right up here. Looks great. Hope everybody finds out there. Be well. Keep moving forward. Keep learning. Keep thinking. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in to Indian Trace. And that right there, that's Indian Trace.